So thank you, Paul, for the introduction, and thank you, Eileen, for being here with us. It's such a treat to have this opportunity to talk to you about your career, about the Taiwan film industry, and thanks also to our audience members who all came out on a beautiful Saturday afternoon to spend an afternoon in a dark room with us talking about movies. Um, and I thought maybe a fitting place to start is going back to the very beginning. And when did film come into your life in a serious way? When did you start thinking that for your career, for your future path, that film was going to be a big part of your future direction?
Yes. I remember. Thanks the UCLA, the Film and Television Archive, having me here, and I'm very excited to join the event this afternoon. And actually, I know about Michael last year that we see for the Golden Horse jury, so he's really happy to see him again. And talking about my film career starting, I have been. I remember my first film is King Kong. Was King Kong? That was back to 1976 or seven something when I was very little, and that is my first film. And my father is a film lover, so he took me to see a lot of film when I was little. And my first Chinese speaking film is one of the Jackie Chan's film. I don't remember the title, but it still is the film was very young. So I have that happy to see the film in when I was young. So I like to see the films in cinemas, in film archive, Taiwanese film archive, and many different film festival. And I enjoy seeing in the black room by myself. I like to see film by myself. I feel relaxed. I feel comfortable when I seeing the film. And the first time I occurs to me the idea I want to be the filmmaker was when I was 14. Two films influenced me. One is the David Lin's A Passage to India, and another is Hou Xiaoxian's film. It's called 童年往事. I don't know the English title.
A Time to Live, A Time to Die.
A Time to Live, A Time to Die. Yeah. But the two films influenced me in very different way. For A Passage to India is the first time I feel that I can go to the place that physically I cannot be there, but I feel I go there. It's like India. I haven't had the chance to go to India so far, but I felt I go to the India because through the film, and I can and I learned the story between the character there, but the life is so far away from me. So I felt that film can be broaden my world. I can go to all over the world, just sitting in the black house in the back room. And for Hou Xiaoxian's film, the story is about a teenage boy with his family story, especially the relationship with his grandma. I have a close relationship with my grandma when I was little, so the film give me the films really touch me. I can explore my inner side through the film. Even the story is not mine, but I can still feel the connection. I can find the connection and can explore the inner side. Why I touched by other people's story? Because there is only maybe only a little similar experience. So yeah, that is my personal experience and my yeah.
And then later, when you went to Northwestern, you studied law and telecommunications.
Right.
Was that with a direction towards film in the future, or in what ways did that period of study train you or prepare you for your later career as a producer?
Because I come from a legal background family, my grandfather, my father, and my brother are all lawyers. So it's very natural for me to go to the law school at the beginning. I got a bachelor degree of law in Taiwan, and then go to the Northwestern. The first year was in law school. I received the LLM degree. That is for the foreign students. But I really loved the film since I was a junior high school. So I told my dad I have to do something related to the film production. So I applied for my second degree in Northwestern. It's called the School of Speech. I remember. And I thought I would learn something from film production, but during that time, that is time that the e-commerce arises. So it's the communication program, but focused on the telecommunication. so I didn't learn anything about the production still, but it gave me the background knowledge of what telecommunication it is. And nowadays it's like the streaming platform is getting more and more important. I think that's the kind of related from what I learned in the Northwestern. And for the legal background, helps me to be a film producer. I think the most important influence in the knowledge is thinking logically. Because as a film producer, our daily job is facing different kinds of problems. So when all the conference come to me, I have to make a priority to see that which one I should solve first. And logical thinking help me to easily to figure out what is the orders to to facing the problems and work it out. Logical thinking, and of course, because with the legal background, I can read a contract by myself. I don't have to spend a bunch of money to pay to the lawyer. So it's really the benefit for me with the yeah.
And then a few years after that, moving forward, your first real breakout film was Formula 17, and that was a major work in Taiwan for a number of reasons. It was kind of a landmark film in Taiwan queer cinema movement. It was a landmark film for just Taiwan independent films and trying to bring audiences back to see local films. Introduced a new star, Tony Yang, and others who became kind of superstars in the next decade in Taiwan. And it was one of the biggest box office hits that year. But as you mentioned, there's a lot of challenges and problems that go into filmmaking, for especially a first film. Can you walk us through what are the lessons you learned making that first film from a producer's standpoint?
Uh, I have a producing partner in Formula 17, and her name is Michelle. And we know each other when we worked for a distribution company in Taiwan. That was my first job when I returned to Taiwan after receiving the degree in Northwestern. And the distribution company is the work that our boss asked us to receive the box office every Monday, just to watch over how the performance of the box office in Taipei. So we have the idea that the what kind of film attract what kind of audience and what the box office performers are. And we also go to the film market together, dealing with the sales representative that how much for each film that we will buying to the Taiwanese market. So starting with the my film career is are all dealing with numbers. So that is so when we start to uh, develop our own production company, we decide to starting from the to pick up the genre first, because that is easy for us to calculate that how to get the money back, both for the domestic market and also for the international sales. So that is how Formula 17 comes to us, because the queer movie has the certain buyers in the international market, and it performs certain box office in the local market as well. So it is easy to figure out how much we should put in to do the production. And so after we do the film, and of course the result was overwhelming. It's beyond our expectation. Yeah. And after that, the things I learned is, first, you have to communicate with your audience all the time. You have to know, you have to learn that what your audience expecting for. But first thing is you have to know who is the target audience for your film, and you polish your story. You work on your storytelling style in order to make your audience understand what you're trying to say. And that is the first thing. And the second is the budget controlling, because we calculate that the how much we could receive from the box office or the sales. So we have to keep on the budget we plan for. We cannot over budget. We have to do things under schedule. We have to eat both the production schedule, the post production schedule. We have everybody in the team has to have the same face test. That is the yeah. We have to respect for the budget. That
And my apologies. We're trying. Eileen has had such a dynamic career, and we're trying to cram as much as we can into the very little time. So we can't cover everything. So I'm trying to ask kind of macro questions that can get at a lot of the big themes. And this year is actually the 15th anniversary of Formula 17, which was released in 2004. So a big question: how has the local Taiwan film industry transformed over the course of these 15 years? What are the biggest changes?
wow, it happens a lot of things in the past 15 years in Taiwan film industry. I would say that the Formula 70 probably is the first producer-driven project, producer-driven film in the past maybe 20 years. Because in the early 90s, when Ho Shaoxian's The City of Sadness won the Golden Lion in Venus International Film Festival, the Taiwanese film industry began to encourage the young filmmaker to make art house film. Of course, that will help the Taiwanese film to make people see all over the world through the different film festival. But the local market suffers because our house is only basically our house films is for the limited audience. So Formula 17, the ideas come from the producers. We have the story idea and we find the director. We have the story writer. The process of making the film is totally different from the art house film. But even the Formula 17 was very successful in Taiwan in 2004. I would say the market still grows very slowly. The second film was, if my memory serves me well, the second film was a producer-driven film was Manga. That is 2009 or something, 8 or 9, yeah. That is also the producer-driven film because they decide the story and decide the shooting period and the release date. The release date is put in there is for the Chinese New Year because that is the most during the year is the most possible to earn the box office during the year. This is the Chinese New Year. So Manga is the second one. What else? I don't remember what else. Let me check my notes.
Well, of course, that was kind of the beginning of opening up a new space for independent Taiwan films. And then Wei Desheng really took it further with Cape Number 7, and then you start getting this whole revival of local Taiwanese films. But I think Formula 17 is a key part of that lineage of opening up the local market.
For me, I would say that, but I don't know what other people say. Yeah. K number 7 is another kind of cases because that is director driven. That is the different things. And there's also a lot of films that's specially made for the Chinese New Year. That's what we call 贺岁片. Yeah, and that is also the production house driven, the producer driven is not from the director's idea. So, yeah. And a lot of different kinds of films after Formula 17 come out to the Taiwanese market. And also one of the important things is a lot of young filmmaker. The young directors have the chance to make their first film after Formula 17 because our director DJ, Chen Yingrong, when she made Formula 17, she was only 23 years ago. That is still the youngest director in Taiwan so far. And the people see that is the chance to have the new Taiwanese film cinema. So give the chance to the young filmmaker, and not only for the director, for the actors, and for the DOP, for the art designer, costume designer, editor, music composer. Yes.
I want to, well, come back to your collaborative relationship with Chen Yingrong in a few minutes. But another massive change for the Taiwan market is the rise of the PRC film market and the migration of so much talent, crew, actors, all going to the PRC. How has that changed the game for you as a producer?
Uh, the PRC market arrives, I think, is the end of 2006 when this is a film called Crazy Stone, 疯狂的石头. It's directed by Ning Hao. It's a very small budget, but do very very well in Chinese market. And then the Taiwanese government was very encouraged the Taiwanese filmmaker to work with the Chinese team and the production company to do the so-called co-production. But the few years after that, I think both the filmmaker from China and Taiwan figure out that the audience want to see different things because the market, the audience is quite different. The Chinese audience has the story, the interesting, but Taiwanese has another way, another yeah. So the co-production, the so-called production is getting fewer and fewer. When we start developing a project, we start to make sure that make the decisions that what is the main market for the film, even it is all the Mandarin speaking. Is the film made for the Chinese film market, or is the film made for Taiwanese film market? That is totally different paths. But the good thing is, after the years that we have the chance to talk to the PRC market and work with the people there, that the talents we can work easily now. We can easily work with the actors there. We can easily work with the DOP or even the sound designer or whatever. The art designer. We can easily work together. So no matter it's the big budget film or a small budget film, no matter it's for the Chinese film market or for the Taiwanese film market. So this is like the talent experience exchanges.
So when I think of your career in film, what most jumps out are the local Taiwanese films, films like Formula 17, films like Juliet's, The Shoe Fairy, with a very strong local sensibility. However, if you look at Eileen's filmography, she has also participated in a lot of very interesting co-productions, transnational productions. Earlier, it was mentioned you worked on Luc Besson's Lucy. You've worked on Taiwan French productions, Taiwan German productions like Ghosted, and currently Nowhere Man, which is going to premiere on Netflix on October 31st. You even worked on this big Jackie Chan sci-fi mainland Chinese production called Bleeding Steel. This is a big question, but could you talk about how your approach shifts from a smaller local film to these kind of more complex animals like Nowhere Man, like Crossings, like Lucy? What kind of things do you have to take into consideration as a producer that you don't have to take into consideration when you're just looking at the local market?
The first co-production project was Ghosted. It's 2008. I worked with the director Monica Trott. It's the German director. I think I'm lucky because first it's another very big budget film, and Monica is the director who very often work with the filmmaker all over the world. So he before Ghosted, she works a lot of documentary in Taiwan. Work with PDS, the Taiwanese television state, the television service station. So she knows Taiwan is very well, and the film is half shot in Hamburg, half in Taipei. So it's a very good start for me to do the co-production. I spent 3 weeks in Hamburg and then 3 weeks in Taipei, and we got the fun half from German and half from Taiwan. So I learned from the first production co-production is experience is communication. Because once you get familiar with the production process, you will know that the all process are similar. Yeah, you find a story, you write a story, and you find the crew, you find the talent, you put into the production schedule, and so on and on. A lot of work is just step by step coming to you. All the things are the same, but when you work with the foreign crew, the only thing is communication. First is the language, and second thing is the cultural differences. You have to spend a lot of time to cope with the differences between two of you. So because Ghost is a very good start, so I have the time and I have the chance to graduate into the working mode when I work with the foreign crew rather than the local production team. That I have the chance to figure out a way to express what I'm thinking and trying to understand what they want. And and because also that was half shooting in Hamburg, half shooting in Taipei. So half of the time I'm the guest there. So I know what the foreign crew that go to the a strange city, what they feeling is. So when they come to Taipei, I totally understand what should provide for them. I should give them I should let them feel comfortable. I should let them feel secure, uh, let them feel that they can totally count on us. So, basically, it's not that difficult. It's only the communication and the more importance. If you can consider it, if you can put aside, you can put aside as other people that you can think what they want. You can be more thoughtful. So well, small budget is easy, but coming to the big budget is quite complicated because it involves like more than hundreds people. It's like Bleeding Steel with Jackie Chan. That is more than 200 people on set every day, and that is more detailed words that you have to communicate with each department. And especially the bleeding style. The film was shot in Sydney, Beijing, and Taipei, three places, and all the difficult part were shot in Taipei. All the car chasing, all the explosion, and all the action scene, the fighting scenes were shot in Taipei. So we do 2 months production and shoot for 3 weeks. That is a lot of things to go through with the production team. And the interesting is the Bleeding Steel actually is a Chinese film, and we're speaking the same language, but the communication word is not easier than well working with the the foreign group. So I think the basic is you have to listen to what they want. Yeah.
And how much do you involve yourself in the issue of kind of sensibility of the film and whether it can play in two or more markets? For instance, there might be, let's say, a German Chinese co-production. Maybe it works great. It plays well with Taiwan audiences, but but in terms of the foreign audiences and kind of getting involved in forging a common meeting place that's going to work well, kind of cracking that code. How much of that do you get involved with as a producer?
It depends on different projects. For Ghosts, we have more involving the story because the actor is half from Taiwan, half from German. It's a cross country story, so we get more involved in. And the goal for that movie is for the festival, of course. So that is the detailed calculation of the budget, and because the money from the German is from the television, so that is a kind of the pre-buy rights for the television. So you know where you're going to get your money back and where you're going to show it. And in Taiwan, the most of the money is from the government because during that period of time, the government was encouraging the co-production. So there's a special fund for the co-production. Yeah. So when I work on the Ghost is for the actually it's more for the festival driven. And Bleeding Steel is aimed to the Chinese market because the budget is so big. you only need to success in Chinese market, then you have the chance to earn the money back. So in that case, it's simple for us. It's only for do the production service. So it totally depends on the right the margin.
So I want to kind of transition from your. We've been talking a lot about these co-productions and global productions back to some of the local productions. And your most frequent collaborator throughout your whole career has been Chen Yingrong, and you've started working together on Formula 17. And although you've taken a lot of outside gigs, you keep coming back and you've collaborated on almost all of her films. And I'm wondering if you could just talk a little bit about your collaborative relationship. How is it different than you working with other directors? And tell us a little bit about your work together.
Well, the relationship between producer and director is very similar. It's like a couple relationship. You have to spend a lot of time with your directors, and I spend a lot of time with my all of my directors even before we decide to making a film. Well, the DJ Chen Yurong, we call her DJ. DJ is just exception because we have the Formula 7 project and we need a director, and she's good, and you on board, and you be our director. We don't know each other, and we work together. So she is the exception in my past experience working with director. But we're lucky. We make the first film together, and we our personality is very similar, but our position is quite different. She's really good at directing and the writing story, and I am happy with my producing work. I don't really have the patience to digger into that what the characters the mental thing or the psychological situation, but I like to do the producing work. I like to she the DJs always say that I'm the one to make a playground, and then she can play safely and happily on my the playground I set up for her. Beside DJ, I have worked with different directors in the yes, I have to work. I have to spend a lot of time with them. We see the movie together. We hang out very often. Even we go to the same concerts to see the concert together. To go to see the exhibition. To go to the gallery together. And we talk a lot of different films. We have to share the ideas. If we read a script, if we have the same vision of the film. So it took me a lot of time before I decide to work with one director. So I made a 22 or 23 film in the past 15 years. It's not that much because I'm quite picky to to choosing my directors. But when I'm working with the veteran directors, the experienced director, that is another thing because they have already have the film there, so I know their style. And if when I have the chance to talk with them, I can easily to combine their film and their personality like Yang Fan. But Yang Fan is also another the exception because he's my mother's good friend. So I know him when I was like kindergarten. So that is another thing. He watched me grow up. But the first time I saw Zhang Woo because we worked together the Crossing. Zhang Woo has so many good films, and also Luc Besson. I'm a big fan of him. So I watched the script and I have the chance to talk them in person. I can very easily to pick up the way how to work with them because I respect for them. So it's not a problem for me to try to do my work to make him feel comfortable on the shooting side. But for the director with my new same age or same generation, I spend a lot of time. And recently, I start working with younger directors, 20 something or early 30s. That is the total different story because the new generation they have a different uh, thinking of film. they have a different storytelling way. They have a different vision of the cinematic work. So I spend more time listening to them. I want to know how they want to make a film rather than just starting to saying that how you should do and what is the my opinion, you should follow me. I don't do that. I just follow them because they are facing a different market, they are facing a different world, and they are facing a different channel. They film maybe not only for the cinema way, only for the different platforms. So yeah, just so this the way of working director is kind of a changing the different stage.
So one of your recent projects is Detention, Fan Xiao, which has been garnering a lot of notice. It's one of the biggest box office successes in Taiwan this year. It's stylistically very interesting in terms of crossing different genres. It was just nominated for 12 awards at the Golden Horse Film Festival. It's also been very controversial in China, where they've kind of wiped the internet clean of any mention of it. Um, I just want to ask an open-ended question about what was the most interesting aspect of this particular film, working on it, or the reception. Maybe tell us a little bit about your experience on
Okay.
Detention.
Yes. I'm gonna say this topic in half Chinese and half English because that is a sensitive topic involved. Okay. The beginning was Detention is back in 2017. That was yeah, almost 3 years ago because that is a very successful video game and it's originated from Taiwan video game team and it put on the website. It's called Steam. That is a very popular video website and the first weekend it's ranked the number 7 all over the world. So it's the first time ever no Taiwanese video game achieved the record. So very quickly we find the creator of the game, then the show are interested. I want to make it into the film. There are 7 very cute young boy and the under 40 and they don't know nothing about the video game. So when we knock on their door, they are so shocked that wow, someone is interested in our story and want to make it to the film. So it's not quite difficult to get the permission, the rights to yeah, to make it to the film. So and then we start writing to a script. That took more than a year. Yeah, because the video game is like the video game is the girl was stuck in the on the campus. It's like the ghost area, the, and she doesn't know why she's stuck in the campus and cannot get out of there. So the player has to follow the girls and go to the different classroom and different corner of the campus to figure out the clues that, and then they can get out of the campus. That is the whole journey of the game. But when you turn it into the film, you have to you have to develop the character. It cannot be just the adventure. It cannot just be uh, just solving problem because there are relationship between the characters in the film, so they have to make it more 立体, just for the yeah.
3-dimensional.
Right, for so we yeah for the more than 1 year to do the script, yes, and I will go speaking Chinese so far from now on, okay, yeah. 返校的故事背景是民国50年，就是1960年。那个时候台湾在戒严，就是 martial law 的时候，所以那个时候的台湾因为跟中国之间是敌对关系，就战争之后才10多年，所以敌对关系，所以戒严是一个就是一个必要的一个阶段。那因为戒严的关系，所以很多左派思想的书籍在那个时候是不可以看，或是任何跟共产党有关的想法是不可以出现，所以这个是返校的背景。那那个故事就是，You want to do the translation first?
So the background behind detention is during the late 50s all the way through 1966. And this was the period in Taiwan history known as the martial law period, where the Republic of China in Taiwan and mainland China had a kind of antagonistic relationship. Technically, they were at war during this period. And so during that time, there was a lot of repression in terms of in Taiwan, what kind of thoughts or ideologies were repressed, what kind of books were banned, all of these leftist books we couldn't read. And that's a little bit about this particular political circumstance that the film is set against.
然后那个故事是讲一个高三的女生跟她的老师谈恋爱，那个时候也不可以。然后老师是读书会，就是的发起人。那读书会就是看那种不可以看的书。然后读书会有另外一个女老师，那女生以为男老师跟女老师有什么不开心，就去想说啊，只要读书会解散了，他们没有办法在一起，我就可以跟男老师在一起。就所有的事情都是很压抑，都是不可以讲。
And the plot of the film revolves around a junior high school student, and she's actually having an affair with her teacher, her high school teacher. And this teacher happens to be the organizer and leader of a book club. The book club, they don't read normal books. They read kind of politically sensitive, they're banned books. And so this kind of is a highly sensitive area. And then there's also a female teacher that the girl is kind of very worried is not happy with this arrangement.
所以他就很单纯的想说啊，读书会解散就没事，然后就去跟教官说有读书会这个事，然后把禁书给了教官。教官那个时候就是学校的，等于是国家的系统的代言人，所以就完蛋啦，就是所有人就是死的死，关的关这样子。
And so eventually she decides that the book club breaks up, and they think once the book club is broken up, everything will be fine, and they don't have to worry about anything. And as part of that, the girl decides to take these banned books that they've been reading and hand them over to the kind of military advisor in the school, kind of keeps order, makes sure everything's safe, but he basically functions as the representative of the state to enforce various regulations and things. But once that happens, that's the beginning of the downfall.
所以那个时候我们想要做这个故事的时候，当然第一是它是一个成功的电动玩具，那再来就是我们想要讲的，其实一个非常非常简单的一个事情，就是它其实是一个17、18岁女孩子在面对爱情的时候，她其实很单纯，她其实不知道会招致一个这么严重的后果，她只是很单纯的想要得到一个爱情。那只是因为那个时候在一个戒严的环境比较危险的环境之下，所以很多的人就这样子牺牲掉了，就不管是说是死刑牺牲掉，或是在监狱里面关了几十年，他出狱了以后，就是人生也差不多完蛋。那其实他不知道，所以我们那个时候做这个故事，其实有一个想法，就是因为我们知道我们的观众会非常非常的年轻。因为现在在台湾看电影的都是很年轻的观众，所以我们想要说的是还原这个游戏的本质，然后让年轻的观众知道台湾曾经有过这样一段时间。
And so when we were making this film, one of the primary reasons that we came to the subject matter was because we knew it was a successful video game and it had, a huge following. So that was part of it. But then the other side of this was the story itself. This is a 17-year-old girl who's particularly naive. She really hasn't seen a lot of sides of the world, and she doesn't really realize that what she's getting herself into in the context of martial law and the political repressiveness and the darkness and the way that everyone is so kind of inhibited, the very radical repercussions and consequences that her actions are eventually going to have. And so for us as filmmakers, we knew that our audience was primarily going to be made up of young, people in their 20s or teenagers, and that's an audience that really doesn't have a firsthand or even secondhand understanding of these events. And so we wanted to find a story that was in some ways going to educate them and let them understand just how dark and repressive Taiwan was during that martial law period.
然后这个故事就是想要讲是就是让大家知道曾经年轻人知道这个戒严，然后的目的是希望现在的年轻人能够就小孩子啊。能够知道说啊，你现在可以过得这么开心，就是每天想干嘛呀，就是说什么话呀，然后做什么事情，就是非常自由的在台湾这块地方生活，其实是有历史背景的。然后当然我们就是因为我跟烈姐可能年纪比较大一点，我们也是希望说，大家看了这个电影以后可以不要滥用你的自由，就是现在小孩子可能就是太自由，所以有时候会滥用你的自由。因为自由其实要是尊重别人，那我觉得就现在可能有些人忘记这个事情，所以其实我们的目的是希望自由这个事情能够被珍惜跟好好的利用。那后来在大陆这边，这个片子变得很敏感，就完全是一个始料未及的事情，没有想到的。
So our objective of setting a film during this period and telling this kind of story during martial law was very much influenced by seeing these young people today, and they're all happy-go-lucky, and it seems like they're having a good time and they're enjoying life and they're doing all these fun things, but they don't really realize that their freedoms and their happiness is built upon the sacrifices of yesterday, and that there's a historical backdrop and there's a struggle that we went through to get to this place. At the same time, slightly older audiences, we wanted to kind of remind them, that you shouldn't abuse your freedom or just not take advantage of it. It's something that's very precious and that came by very difficult means. And so that was really our main objective, was we wanted younger audiences to really appreciate the freedoms that they have and understand where they came from. As for the repercussions in mainland China, that's something I really did not foresee at all. It came completely unexpected.
所以就这个片子，现在就是说，就是在大陆好像就是都被屏蔽掉嘛，就是返校这两个字都看不到，然后，在台湾因为各种选举政治因素的原因，也有很多人看完这个片子以后做的一些解读。那有不同目的的人就会做不同的解读。我觉得我是蛮就是我是很健康的在面对这个事情啦，就是我觉得一个片子有它的命，就是说我在2017投的时候，我们决定要去谈这个版权拍这个戏的时候，我根本不知道我剧本会写1年，我也不知道我剧本写了1年以后，我的后期做了14个月，所以我更不会知道我会是在今年9月的时候发行这个片子，然后一连串的就是发生在两岸三地的事情，是正好都是这个时间同时发生，就是跟这个自由的主题有关系，所以其实所有的事情都是意料之外的。那当然包括这个票房在台湾现在非常成功，跟这个社会的气氛有很大的关系。但我们那时候做的时候根本就不知道，我们一天到晚怕赔钱，因为对你先。
And so after that, the film was basically blacklisted in mainland China. In fact, even just those two characters, Fan Xiao, the Chinese title of the film, you can't, if you type that in search engines in China, you get nothing back. It's just been erased. And so I really never expected it would have this kind of a response. At the same time, within Taiwan, there's all kinds of analysis and readings of the film. Some people have very specific political objectives from which they're applying to the film and using it to achieve their own kind of political argument. But a lot of this is out of my hands. You have to have a kind of healthy attitude when you're approaching your film and it's released, and you have to look at it. You have to kind of have a certain release. There's a lot of things that come down to fate. You can't control it. When I invested in this, when we first invested in the film and bought the rights in 2017, I had no idea we would spend an entire year working on the screenplay. I also had no idea we would spend 14 months in post-production, and that finally it wouldn't be released until September of this year. I also have no way to predict that upon the time of its release, it would crash into this particular historical moment where the notion of freedom, which was so important to our concept in the film, also became a kind of tagline in the political environment that's happening right now between China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. And it's become a kind of discourse that's a lot of people are very worked up about. And so, a lot of this is unpredictable, and you can't predict this. You can't know what's going to happen, but you just have to have a healthy attitude as you navigate all of these things.
所以差不多反向是这样子。
So that's a summary of detention. So I'm just going to try to wrap up with one or two final questions here. One of them, looking at your whole filmography, one thing that's just really amazing is how versatile it is. You've done documentary films, you've done musical documentaries, you did something with the band.
The folk songs in Taiwan.
You've done horror films, comedies, dramas, queer cinema. What are the challenges for you jumping back and forth from completely different genres? Is that, or as a producer, is it kind of irrelevant?
天哪，我讲的中文就回不来英文。我是一个兴趣很广泛的人啊，对，所以我觉得我很适合做制片，是因为我什么都可以，就是我只要觉得好玩，我就会去做。但是我每一个片子都花非常非常长的时间，短的话2年，长的话会更久。对，像我明年，我现在在筹拍2个案子，里边有一个已经做了3年、4年。都还在剧本，对，所以每一个片子对我们来讲，就对我来讲都是新的，对，因为花很长的时间去投入，对，所以每一个片子对我来讲，其实都是一个新的开始，这样子，对。那当然，不同的类型，我们就会做不同的功课，譬如说做返校，我们把它定义是 horror thriller。所以我们去看了很多这方面的电影或是书籍。那我们会分析一个电影它成功是为什么，它失败是为什么，它在这一个市场成功，在那个市场不一定成功是为什么。那我们譬如说返校，我们希望它在哪里成功。所以其实这整个每一个案子开始的时候，我们都做非常非常多的功课在里面。
So I'll start off by saying that I'm a person with very broad interests. I have, there's all kinds of things that interest me, that excite me. And if I think something looks interesting and fun, I go for it. I just do it. But one thing that a lot of people don't realize is how long these projects take. Right now I have 2 projects that I'm working on in kind of pre-production stage. And, even the shortest film might be 2 years, but that's on the short side. And many of them, in fact, most of them take much, much longer. So of the 2 films I'm working on now, one of them I've already been working on 3 or 4 years, and it's still in the script writing phase. And so that's how long some of these projects take to develop. And so there's a lot of personal investment of time, of energy, of thought that goes into these films. And every time, you asked about these different genres. Every time I switch to a new genre, there's kind of it's like a new feeling that you have to embrace, and a new set of homework that I have to do, a new set of objectives that I have to solve. And so if you take the example of Detention, which is, if we have to categorize it, I would call it a horror thriller. So I started watching all kinds of horror thrillers and doing my homework, and I started to think about, which films in this genre are successful. Why are they successful? Which ones are failing? Why are they failing? Which markets are they failing at? Which markets are they succeeding in? And from that homework, we start to come up with a plan for how these films come together. And how are we in time, Paul? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Um, how is Taiwan? We know that detention is doing very well in the local Taiwan market. Um, what kind of films are doing well in the Taiwan market today? What kind of films are struggling? What maybe give us a picture of where Taiwan cinema is right now in terms of the overall market.
呃，其实台湾的电影，就是说，我觉得台湾的电影其实产业就是 industry 这个部分，其实还是不成熟的。就是其实坦白讲，我们所有的电影都是还是独立的，就是还是 independent。所以你说哪一个片子会成功，哪一种片子不会成功，不知道。但另一方面来讲，就是都有可能。所以我觉得现在是在我还是很乐观的，觉得其实台湾现在是在一个还不错的一个电影环境里边，因为尤其我们的年轻人其实有非常非常的多的机会来拍电影，然后他可以讲任何他想讲的故事，你都不会觉得说，你都不会说哦，你这个不行做，因为他一定不成功，因为永远都有新的可能会发生，但是唯一真的是要注意的就是预算，就是 budget 的控制，这个东西是非常重要。你只要算出的一个数字是大家可以接受的，投资方可以接受的，市场吃得下来的。其实我觉得台湾电影有很多很多的，在这个阶段还是有很多很多的可能。
So I would say that the Taiwan industry is not really a mature industry. A lot of the films we're talking about, when you really boil it down, these are in fact independent films, and so the good part of that, of having a small market dominated by indies, is that there's a lot of possibilities. You never know what's going to succeed or what's going to fail because there's no rules. You never know what's going to happen. Anything can happen. Anybody can succeed with any kind of film. These miracles just kind of emerge. And so for young people, it's actually not bad at all because there's a lot of opportunities for them. There's complete freedom in terms of what they want to say and what they want to express in these films. There's no one that's going to stop them. So there is this kind of magic that anything can happen in the industry. The one thing you always have to be very concerned and mindful of is the budget and control it very tightly. But I do feel that overall it's not a bad market because there are so many possibilities. And why don't we open up the last couple minutes to one or two audience questions?
Michael，
就是其实我来之前呢，我列了 a list of question 我想要 ask，然后 one of them is，因为我知道您是返校的 producer 嘛，那我想问的是说，当初你怎么决定 give up Chinese market？所以你现在说是为什么你会觉得这个电影的主题不会被他们禁呢？对，那是另外一个问题。然后第二个问题是说，我来看这个 film festival 的时候，很期待可以看到 detention，然后看到 list 没有 detention 的时候很失望，然后就想问什么时候我们在北美可以看得到？谢谢。
So this is a two-part question. The first is concerning detention, and at what point in the production did you decide you're just going to give up on the Chinese market for this film? And the second part is when I came to this festival, I had very high hopes I would see detention, but of course it's not programmed here. When do you think North American audiences will be able to see this film?
就是一开始就知道，因为第一这个故事就是师生恋啊，你去不了。然后他有鬼嘛，他就是在学校里边，他有一个角色就是鬼差，所以光是这两个要件就没有办法。所以那当然后来被那个禁止是我就是不知道的事情，但是一开始就知道这两个条件就是大陆就是不可能。
第一个是
师生恋跟老师谈恋爱。
So there were a couple kind of taboo areas that this film dealt with. The first is the student-teacher relationship, and the second is ghosts, ghost stories. Both of those are not approved for the mainland Chinese markets, and so that alone we knew that we weren't going to be going for the Chinese market for this film. I never imagined there would be this more widespread ban of even mention of the film, but just the content itself was already enough.
然后对啊对啊，我也很想要在北美放，但是我们就先让我卖一卖啦，就是说先把那个版权卖一卖再来，或者说有的这个电影节可以吸引一些买家也不错。所以其实，在谈一定会来北美，因为其实北美有很多我们的观众我们知道，所以我觉得是时间早晚的问题。
I think it's really just a matter of time. It's going to happen sooner or later. It's film festivals help get these films out. We haven't sold the rights yet. It's as simple as that. But we do have a market here, and I'm sure that sooner or later the film will get North American distribution. Maybe one final question, right in the middle.
那个您好，就一样就很谢谢您今天来这边，就是可以听到您亲自就是跟我们对谈。那就是想问的是说，就是对于在美国电影业工作的台湾人来讲，你有什么建议说可以就是帮助台湾的电影可以更增加能见度？因为其实我是在好莱坞这边工作，可是我就是一直很 struggle 这个事情，就是我觉得我好像没办法帮台湾的电影圈做什么事情。然后想问说有什么建议？
So, do you have any advice for young filmmakers from Taiwan here in America that are struggling and trying to kind of make a contribution to Taiwan cinema here from the United States?
我觉得现在台湾电影圈需要各个人才。长期以来，台湾的电影教育只培养一个人叫导演，那是错的。一个电影是一个团队，就是你今天导演，就算你想要干嘛，你没有一个团队，你就是什么人都不是。因为你说在英文里边的导演叫 director 什么？他就是 directing 所有的事情嘛，所以他下面一定要有人帮他做事情。那我觉得台湾现在对于电影专业部门的人才非常非常的缺乏。那你在美国这边，就是在好莱坞这边，其实会有非常非常多的技术的学习的机会。因为一个大的市场，它的技术一定成长的非常非常快。那这个是在台湾没有办法支持技术人员的地方。所以我不知道你的专业是什么，但是如果你是在这边的话，其实有很多技术就是已经磨练到一个程度的时候，是一定可以贡献给台湾电影。但是就是说，三五不时要跟台湾的电影工作者交流，就是让大家知道你们的存在，否则我们如果想要找人，也不知道去哪里找。
So I think that one of the challenges is that there's a lot of filmmakers here in the U.S. who are studying or elsewhere, and when they think of studying film, they think of one thing, that I want to be a director, and that's the one kind of title that everybody's going for. But you have to always remember that film is a collective art and that you need a crew, you need various talents to support a director. Because what's a director doing? They're directing people under them, to collaborate, to do things. And if you don't have that support network beneath you of all the technical crew, writers, cinematographers, etc., you have nothing. It's a collective art. And so that's something that the Taiwan film industry is very much lacking, is this very skilled technical crew who have professional training. And the Taiwan local industry doesn't have that industrial infrastructure within film to support the training of all of these technical people. But that's one thing Hollywood does have. There's a lot of these opportunities for a crew to really get deep, in-depth training and sound, cinematography, art design, all of these kinds of things. And so I would say, my big advice would be to learn one of those specializations, and then make that available to the Taiwan film industry, because they're very much lacking that. So I think with that, I believe we were out of time. So I'm going to have to thank Aileen, for this really wonderful and illuminating conversation. I wish we had another hour to keep going, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.